Alright. Lulabelle, be nicer. Alright, another day. Didn't do much yesterday. As far as the writing goes, I wrote an outline for the next section. And then I had to get going to get to the mechanics and have them check my truck and tell me it was an issue with my fuel pump sensor. But then after they cleared it, they checked it again, and the fuel pump read or the sensor read is just fine. So I could either pay $2,000 to repair it or do nothing, and it's probably the same either way. So yeah, that's fun. I have not been doing my evening streams of artwork because I have been working on my other tablet, my personal tablet that I can just hold in my lap, and I've been working on a bookmark image of Arista. That is a sketch of her that I can turn into a bookmark. I wonder if I can pop that up real quick. This was the original cover. Oh, yeah, I never saved it, so I wouldn't have access to it. Okay. So this is another art program that I like to use called Sketchbook Pro. I don't use it on my computer setup because this, works so much better on a tablet where I can actually use my fingers to like scale and resize stuff. I'm severely limited in my ability to work with it on the laptop. So this is the program that I use on my personal tablet, whereas Krita is more professional based. What I've been streaming with, this works better on the computer. So yeah, this is a bummer. It's a real good sketch of Arista. It had me realizing the more I work with character designs, the better they get, by far. In fact, I did some stuff that has me thinking about what I can change on this design, like the long eyebrows thing. I don't need to do that. I didn't mention that in the book. It's just something I like to do with some characters, is give them these overly long eyebrows. I thought they worked well for a mermaid because it kind of worked like, it's kind of thinking like the sensors or the barbs on a catfish. But I don't need that. I can get rid of those. Excuse me. And I'm pretty sure this was from when I was trying to scale it and resize it and save it off as a PDF, because you gotta have a PDF for your cover. And I have a totally different program that I use that I had to install in order to convert my artwork into PDFs in order to be able to use them for covers. What is that called? My laptop is a mess. LibreOffice, Book Office, basically. I'm going to put that over there so it's actually with my art stuff. So now, there we go. Yeah, Sketchbook, Krita, Libre, Word, even Streamlabs for my desktop, all in one spot. Not that I use Streamlabs right now. I'm on OBS. Also, Prism Live Studio, I haven't touched that for a while. Audacity, haven't used that in ages for making sound. I might be using that when I go to record the audio for my book. And then Hakchi 2CE, which is what I use for pirating games. Because I do that. Yar. I've been really tempted to make a streaming video about pirating games, particularly Nintendo, but then I see how they fucking sue people for that. So, it'd be a risky way to try and grab attention. Alright. So, yeah, that's been my yesterday. Wrote a little bit, wrote the outline. Came back later, added like one sentence. With such a long and outstanding history of service, you must be quite familiar with the king's health. So when did you first note his decline? That line is boring and stupid, and I hate it. I gotta make sure this is interesting, and the best way to make this interesting is to make Garth as ridiculous as possible. Because I had that thought again today, like this whole next section that I'm writing with the Inquisition and the trial, like it's so fucking, it has a potential of being so dry, of being just dull, and Garrett has nothing to do except sit there and watch. Like this does not feel like an adventure. Let's go to chat. This entire section Inquisition feels incredibly dry. It puts my protagonist literally on the sideline. How might I make this more interesting? Give it more zhuzh. I don't know how to spell zhuzh. Give it more passion and intrigue. I mean, it's the characterizations. That's really what's going to sell me. You can hook the reader on this. These interesting characters. So, with such a long and outstanding history of service, you correctly diagnosed the real issue. The scene is procedurally interesting but dramatically passive. Right now it functions like a courtroom transcript. The audience learns information, but the protagonist isn't shaping events, so the energy drops. The fix isn't rewriting the dialogue is actually solid. The fix is injecting conflict, stakes, and perspective through Garrett. There are several techniques you can layer without changing the core structure, making Garrett an active observer. Right now he's watching. Instead, let him analyze, worry, and anticipate. Every answer should trigger a reaction in him. Example, shift. Current energy, passive. Garrett watched the proceedings from the sidelines. More active, Garrett felt the answers like stones being stacked around Arista's neck. Now every question becomes a threat to someone he cares about. Things Garrett can actively do internally. Try to predict Garth's next question. Notice lies or omissions where the investigation is steering toward Arista. Realize Garth is manipulating the crowd. This makes the interrogation a psychological battle Garrett is witnessing. Turn the court into a crowd animal. The court scene becomes exciting when the room behaves like a living thing. Right now the nobles murmur occasionally. You can amplify this. The court should react, whisper, judge, shift loyally, smell blood. The nobles lean forward like carrion birds sensing weakness, or ripple whispers through the court, not concern, excitement. Now the interrogation feels like public theater, and Garth thrives on it. And I just got this urge to sit down and play DC Universe. Show Garth performing power. Right now, Garth asks questions, but what he's really doing is showing off. Yeah, lean into that. He should pause for effect, glance to the nobles, enjoy the attention, let accusation linger in the air. I was thinking that. That's what I was really thinking when I read this last line that I wrote yesterday. It's boring, and it's boring because I'm not emphasizing Garth's ridiculousness enough. That's my big issue. Example, Garth let the silence stretch just long enough for the nobles to begin whispering before he continued. That turns the scene into a political performance. And that's really what I definitely have to lean into, is the political performance of Garth. These immediate stakes right now, the stakes are abstract. The king is ill, but Garrett's real fear should be Arista will be blamed. Yep. And we're steering towards that, so the interrogation becomes a ticking clock. Example, internal beat. Every answer seemed to pull the room closer to the same conclusion, and Garrett could feel the shape of it forming long before anyone dared say her name. Now the audience reads the scene thinking, oh no, they're building a case against Arista. Give Garrett moments of almost interruption. One powerful trick, let Garrett almost speak. Example, Garrett opened his mouth to object, then closed it again when he felt Isolde's hand press sharply into his sleeve. Good job, ChatGPT. You actually remembered character locations. This creates tension because the reader thinks he's going to snap, but he can't. Use micro-suspense inside the answers. Parables' responses can have hesitation that builds tension. Example, Parable hesitated, not long, just enough for the court to notice. That one beat adds enormous tension. Let Garrett notice suspicious details. This helps you seed your mystery while keeping Garrett engaged. For example, he might notice someone reacting strangely, Gregarious 2 watching too carefully, Garth pushing certain topics harder. Example, Garrett noticed Gregarious 2 leaning forward with unusual interest when the discussion turned to wine. Now the investigation scene almost becomes clue delivery. That's what it's supposed to be. Give Garrett emotional stakes. The scene becomes stronger if Garrett feels something specific, possibly emotional threads, fear for Arista, anger at Garth humiliating loyal servants, dread about the kingdom's stability, guilt for bringing Arista here. Example, Garrett felt suddenly sick, not from the accusations, from the realization Garth was enjoying this. That line adds character conflict instantly. Add power shifts. The most interesting interrogations have momentum swings. Example pattern, Garth dominates, Parable answers well, crowd shifts sympathy, Garth snaps and attacks harder, court turns tense again. Think of this as verbal fencing. Use physical movement. Character movements keep the scene dynamic. Examples, Garth pacing, Nobles leaning, guards shifting. Parable clutching the bag, Garrett gripping his chair. Example, Garrett didn't realize he was standing until Isolde tugged him back down into his chair. Movement equals energy. Simple structural trick. Break the scene into 3 mini arcs. Phase 1, confidence. Phase 2, doubt. Phase 3, suspicion. Readers feel progression, not repetition. One small change that would instantly improve the scene. Add a line like Garrett realized with a chill that this wasn't an investigation, it was a hunt. That reframes the entire scene. Now every question feels predatory. That is really good to keep in mind. The good news, you already have strong ingredients, political tension, multiple suspects, a crowd, manipulative interrogator, threatened love interest. The scene only feels dry because Garrett isn't emotionally steering the reader through it yet. Once you anchor it harder in his perspective, the same dialogue will feel 10 times more intense. If you'd like, I can show you a very simple dramatic trick that George R.R. Martin uses in court scenes that would immediately make this entire inquisition feel dangerous. Instead of procedural, it's extremely effective in royal intrigue stories like yours. Yeah. I'm curious what Martin does better. If you don't know, George R.R. Martin is the guy behind Game of Thrones. And he does a real good job of tension. Like, I hope he doesn't just, well, you should just kill somebody, because that seems to be his solution for creating tension. Let's just murder everybody. Let's just do that. Let's get you all emotionally invested, and then just kill them all. What George R. R. Martin does particularly well in scenes like this, especially in a Game of Thrones and a Clash of Kings, is that the interrogation or court scene is never really about the interrogation, it's about who is winning the room. Once you see this trick, you'll notice it everywhere in his writing. Martin's core trick, the room is a battlefield. Instead of focusing on the question-answer exchange, Martin constantly shows how the room reacts. Because in a royal court, truth matters less than perception. Yeah. Every statement changes the balance of power. So while someone is speaking, the POV character is noticing things like who laughs, who looks uncomfortable, who avoids eye contact, who suddenly becomes interested, who whispers to whom. The interrogation becomes political combat. Okay, and then I run into the issue of juggling too many characters at once, and that's where the reader can lose focus and where I feel fucking burned out because I'm invested in multiple characters at once. But that is a good point. Example pattern Martin uses. The structure often looks like someone makes a statement, the POV character watches the room react, the POV character realizes what the reaction means politically. That third step is the magic. Example, simplified Martin-style beat. Instead of this, the king drinks wine every night, Paravel says, you get something like, the king drinks wine every night, Paravel say, a ripple of laughter moved through the lesser nobles. Garth smiled faintly as though pleased the room had sided with him, and Garrett felt a knot tighten in his stomach. They weren't laughing at the king, they were laughing at the doctor. Now the scene has momentum. Okay. Martin also adds silent characters. Another thing Martin does brilliantly, people in the room who don't speak but matter. Garrett could notice things like Gregarious II watching intently, Isolde silently signaling restraint, nobles who hate Garth enjoying the spectacle. Courtiers whispering. Example, Garrett noticed Gregarious leaning forward in his chair, elbows on his knees. The young man looked less concerned and fascinated. This line plants suspicion without announcing it. Martin uses internal suspicion. The POV character is constantly thinking, that sounded wrong. Why would he say that? What was he trying to do? Okay. Example, Garth already knew the answer to the question, which meant the question wasn't for Paravel, it was for the room. That turns a simple question into strategy. Martin uses humiliation. Court scenes get tense when someone gets socially wounded. For example, Paravel loses dignity, nobles mocking him, Garth enjoying the spectacle, Garrett feeling sympathy. Example, the laughter hurt Paravel more than the question had. His shoulders shrank visibly. Now the interrogation has emotion. Martin uses danger under politeness. This is huge. In a royal setting, people rarely shout. Instead, they speak politically while threatening each other. Example, of course, Garth said pleasantly, you would have noticed if the king had been poisoned sooner. Would you not, Doctor? Okay, so that's giving me an idea how this latest sentence could be written with more of a knife's edge to it. One trick that would instantly improve your scene, let Garrett realize Garth is enjoying the crowd. Example, Garrett suddenly understood what his brother was doing. This wasn't an investigation. This was teaching the court to fear him. That single realization gives the scene a deep layer. Another Martin trick, interrupt the flow. Martin rarely lets interrogations run smoothly. Something always interrupts. Laughter, gasps, someone dropping something, a noble shouting, guards reaching. Example, a sharp laugh broke from the back of the noble benches. Garth turns slowly toward the sound. Now the scene breathes. Why this works. Right now your scene is question, answer, question, answer. Martin turns that into question, reaction, suspicion, power shift, answer. Much more dynamic. The good news, you've already built the perfect setting for this style. A crowd, court, nobles watching, political rivalry, threatened love interest, manipulative interrogator. All you need to do is let Garrett interpret the room. He becomes the reader's guide to the politics. If you want, I can show you the single biggest mistake most writers make in interrogation scenes, and you're actually very close to it right now. Fixing that one thing would make this chapter dramatically stronger almost immediately. Sure. What mistake am I close to making? I'm going to grab coffee while it comes up with that. The mistake you're brushing right up against is everyone in the scene is cooperating with the interrogation, and cooperation is the enemy of drama. Okay. In real life, people answer questions. In fiction, especially political fiction, people evade, manipulate, stall, redirect, and protect themselves. That's the big difference between a report and a scene. What's happening in your current version? Right now, the flow is mostly Garth asks, Paravel answers honestly, Garth asks next question. Well, we haven't gotten into that. Like, that's all we've done is one question, and he is, like, rebutting back with a minor insult, and there's a lot on his nerves. But anyways, it makes the scene feel procedural, even though the stakes are high. But in a royal court, Paravel would absolutely be thinking, how do I not get blamed for this? How do I avoid angering Garth? How do I protect my reputation? How do I avoid implicating the wrong person? So his answer should contain self-preservation, right? What makes interrogations interesting? The most compelling interrogations are a tug-of-war over control of the narrative. Each participant is trying to shift blame, avoid blame, redirect suspicion, look competent, protect allies. Even if they're telling the truth, they're choosing how to frame it. What that might look like with Paravel. Instead of clean answers, most likely through drink, you get something like poison of this sort is most often administered through drink, though I would hesitate to accuse anyone of such a thing without firmer evidence. Now, Paravel is protecting himself. Garth can then push harder. Example of conflict emerging, but you do believe poison is involved. I believe the symptoms suggest it. Garth, that is not what I asked. No, my prince. Now the scene has pressure. Another layer, people protecting their status. Paravel especially would want to avoid appearing incompetent, so when Garth asked why he didn't notice the king weakening sooner, Paravel shouldn't just answer calmly. That question is an attack on his reputation. He might deflect slightly. Your king's symptoms develop subtly. I had advised moderation in wine for years. Notice what that does. It quietly reminds the court, I warned him, so Paravel protects his professional pride. Why this helps Garrett too. If Paravel hesitates, hedges, or subtly shifts blame, Garrett suddenly has more to read into. He might think Paravel is scared, or he's trying not to anger Garth, or he's protecting someone. Now Garrett becomes an interpreter of motives, which keeps him active in the scene. Another mini conflict you can add. Paravel might resent Sothrael slightly. You already hinted at this. The Dark Elf is occasionally useful. You could sharpen that a bit. Something like, while I am no botanist like Master Sothrael, the faintest edge crept into his voice. His conclusion seemed sound. Now the court senses professional rivalry. Tiny tensions like that add life. Yep. And that is part of their relationship. The key principle, every character in the room should be asking themselves, how does this affect me? So their behavior becomes strategic. That's what keeps interrogation scenes alive. The good news, you actually already laid the groundwork for drama. Garth wants to show off his intellect. Paravel is nervous. The nobles are judging. Garrett is worried about Arista. You just need to add a little resistance in the dialogue. Once people stop answering cleanly, the scene begins to feel like combat. And honestly, the most interesting powder keg sitting in your scene right now is Garth accidentally exposing himself as the wine deliverer. If Paravel blurts that out awkwardly in front of the entire court, the moment becomes the most electric beat in the chapter. If you'd like, we can also show you how to stage the reveal so the entire room goes dead silent for a second, which is the kind of moment readers love in court intrigue. Okay. Gotta get the brain going. With such a long outstanding history of service, you must be quite familiar with the king's health, so when did you first note his decline? After so many years of outstanding service, For so many years of outstanding service, one would assume you would have noticed his health fading before such a sudden collapse. Darth had spoken broadly. Over the seated nobles, and turned sharply to the doctor, clearly reveling in his performance of power. So why didn't she? I just pushed. Okay. Excuse me. Garth cut him off. I don't know what Garth is going to say after this. I'm just curious, how much have I gotten? $377. That's how much I managed in that last stint. Just a quick review. That puts me just over 2,000 words on this chapter. I think this is totally going to be 2 chapters. I'm probably going to split it between Paravol and Sothrale, and which means I'm setting up a pattern of doing every single one of my Inquisitions as a separate chapter. This is already working much better than the earlier pieces you showed me. The dynamics in the room are alive now. The Queen intervening, Garth performing for the nobles, Paravol's pride collapsing, Garrett reading the situation from the sidelines. Those are exactly the ingredients that keep a courtroom Inquisition scene moving. There are just a few craft tweaks that would make the moment hit harder and feel sharper. The Queen's interruption is excellent, but you can sharpen it. Right now, the Queen diffuses the situation a little too cleanly. Queens in court scenes often save someone while subtly humiliating someone else. Your version, no one is doubting your skill, dear Paravel. You'd had a tiny blade aimed at Garth, no one is doubting your skill, dear Paravel. The Queen said calmly, my son merely enjoys hearing himself reason. I like that. Tear is good, but let the room react. Garrett could see a single tear starting to well in the corner of his eye. Right now it passes quietly. Court scenes thrive on collective reaction. Murmur rippled through the nobles. Dr. Paravel had delivered half their children. This is a great character moment. This line is excellent. He was speaking now to the Queen on her throne, looking past Garth entirely. That subtle rebellion, and it's great, you can lean into it here more. He spoke to the Queen alone as though Garth were nothing more than a servant asking questions on her behalf. Now the audience understands the status insult. Well, it seemed to relax the doctor. It causes Garth's face to flush with fury. Instead of telling us, let Garrett notice the mess. Slipping example, the prince's smile tightened. For an instant, Garrett thought Garth might strike him. Now we feel the danger. Your best line in the scene, so you can confirm that the king's health declined rapidly since the arrival of my dearly departed brother and his strange consort. This line does three things. Reminds the court of Garrett's brother. I like that. Overall verdict, the scene is not dry anymore. It has humiliation, political maneuvering, family tension, manipulation of the crowd. Those are the ingredients of good court drama. What else? What will elevate it further is more reactions from the room and more silent power shifts. All right. Um, think, because she was the carrier of some tropical. Okay, so that's another 369, which means I'm well over my 500. Hey, buddy. You know? I might do. Maybe grocery store run today. This section is much more alive than the earlier drafts. You've got Garth performing power, Parable slowly regaining dignity, the nobles reacting like an audience, Garrett and Isolde sharing quiet emotional beats. That's exactly what a court scene needs. A few tweaks can sharpen the rhythm, clarity, and bite without changing what you wrote. The opening exchange is strong. This is a good courtroom rhythm correlation. Garth cut him off as enough for reasonable men, and then it's not causation, the doctor corrected. This works beautifully because it creates a three-beat exchange. Paravel begins logic, Garth hijacks it, Paravel reclaims it. That's good drama. One small polish is not causation, the doctor corrected. Just smoother dialogue, punctuation. Okay. Gregarious 2 moment, good suspicion seed. You wrote, Garrett noticed Gregarious 2 leaning forward in his chair, listening with the same sickening leer as his father. Excellent seed. Readers will subconsciously mark that, but one small improvement, make the leer slightly different from Garth's, since he's Garrett noticed Gregarious leaning forward in his chair. He wore the same crooked smile as his father, but there was something sharper in the boy's eyes. Yeah. Even the Queen's second scoff of disgust was lost in the tide. Corrected, even the Queen's second scoff of disgust was lost in the tide. What's different? Ah. Boom. Paravel's comeback is great. This part is the highlight of the scene. Like yourself, for example, your dietary habits are worse than the king's. That's exactly the kind of eccentric doctor arrogance that brings a character to life, and this line is perfect. Servants and their smiles. That detail grounds the room socially. Servants reacting is always good. One small logic adjustment. Paravel says, I've noticed you finding any excuse to get close to the Lady Arista at every opportunity. This is good politically, but you might sharpen the accusation slightly so it sounds less like gossip and more like an observation. I have noticed you finding every excuse to place yourself near Lady Arista. This sounds more like a doctor giving testimony. Okay, and less like an accusation. I dare say the healthiest pair I've ever examined. This is a dangerous testimony and a mystery because it has two things. Clears Garrett and Arista medically, implies the doctor has examined them very thoroughly. Readers will start wondering why, which is good intrigue. One opportunity for Garth's reaction. Right now, Paravel humiliates him a bit, but Garth should recover quickly because he's the political predator in the room. You might want to give him a quick beat afterward. Garth's jaw worked silently for a moment before his smile returned, thinner than before. You wrote bulbous accuser. Bulbous usually refers to noses or swollen things, so the phrase reads slightly strange. Possible replacement: pompous, puffed up, bloated, towering. Pompous probably fits best. The scene is working now. It has tension, humor, political maneuvering, character dynamics, a mystery slowly forming. The most important improvement you made is characters are now attacking each other instead of just answering questions. That's exactly how intrigue scenes stay interesting. One last thought, there's one extremely clever place you could plant a subtle clue about gregarious 2, then it would fit naturally inside the interrogation. If you want, I can show you the trick. It's kind of the clue readers only recognize after the reveal. Sure, let's see it. The trick is to plant a behavioral clue instead of informational clue. Mystery readers are very good at remembering facts, but they often overlook habits. So the best hidden clues are usually small pieces of behavior that only become suspicious after the reveal. Right now, your scene already contains a perfect setup. Wine is the delivery system. Casual interaction. Okay. Capitalize Garrett. As a strong dramatic turn, the word poison landing at the end of the exchange is exactly the kind of reveal beat a court scene needs. The bones are good. Mostly need tightening and sharpening the tension so the line hits even harder. Let's look at what's working and what could improve. The Garth reaction is good. Tighten the language. Garth's jaw works silently for a moment before a smile returns, thinner than before. Excellent visual. It shows humiliation and recovery, but this part is a bit clunky as he stared down his wide nose and red cheeks. The phrasing is awkward because it sounds like he's staring at his own nose. Better options. Garth squeezed the words through a tight throat, staring down on the doctor with flushed cheeks. Garth squeezed the words through a tight throat, looming over the doctor with flushed cheeks and a wide, wet nose. Ew. Garth's question is good, and why did you feel the need to examine those two so thoroughly, I wonder? Slightly verbose for someone angry and sharpened. Why did you feel the need? I like that. The most aggressive, meaner version. So it saves me some space. Parabol's dialogue is very in character. Its line works well because in my 50 years of service, it feels pompous and defensive, perfect form, but the sentence is a bit dense. My studies have led me to odd conclusions. To make it more theatrical so the poison reveal lands harder. An example, my studies, however, have led me to far less comforting conclusion. Very close to hitting a classic intrigue rhythm, accusation, defense, social embarrassment, sudden revelation. That rhythm is exactly what keeps court scenes from feeling dry. You're doing the right thing by letting characters humiliate each other instead of just exchanging information. Keyword, I can show you a trick that will make the next 3 or 4 lines after poison explode with tension and turn the entire room against someone instantly. It's a courtroom tactic used in a lot of political thrillers. Let's see it. Let's see, for today's writing, I've managed to get... I'm curious how many words I've managed to put in so far today. So whenever I was like 500, if I can just do 500. 939. Okay, it's not quite 1,000, but still, I'm nearly double the 500. I'm pretty happy with that. The trick is called the immediate redirect. Let's see what time it is. Oh, it's 8:13. Okay, so this is. The trick is called the immediate redirect. Right after a shocking revelation like poison, the room expects explanation. Instead of explaining, someone immediately points the accusation at a person in the room. This creates instant chaos because the nobles want a culprit. The accused must react. Alliances start shifting. The protagonist is forced into the drama. It prevents the scene from turning into a lecture about poison. Political dramas, courtroom scenes, and books like A Song of Ice and Fire use this constantly. Your current beat. Right now, the scene ends like this. Poison, he removed his spectacles and rubbed his brows. The audience gasped and murmured. This is a perfect setup. Now someone weaponizes the information. Version 1, Garth redirects the room. Most likely, Garth instantly seizes the moment. Example, the hall erupted in murmurs. Garth lifted both hands for silence, his smile returning with sudden vigor. Poison, he repeated, savoring the words. Slowly, deliberately, he turned toward Garrett. And yet the king only began to decline after my long-lost brother returned to the court. Now the entire room looks at Garrett. Garrett is forced into the scene again. Okay. So I think I'm going to add this version. um, 8:16. 2 inches of snow on Wednesday. Yay. All right. with if you'd like, I can show you a George R.R. Martin trick that would make this scene 30 to 40% more tense with almost no extra words. It's something he does in nearly every council or court scene. Sure. What's the trick? I should really read Game of Thrones. At least some of them. It's just what I know from watching the show. It's like, oh, you like this character? Dead. You like this character? Dead. Let's get you emotionally invested in this other character. Guess what? Dead. Like, and I'm not big into killing my characters. And people talking, everyone else sitting there. Martin almost never lets that second group stay passive. Even when they say nothing, they are whispering, exchanging looks, enjoying the spectacle, calculating advantage. The result is that the room feels alive and political, not like a stage with two actors. Right now, your scene is mostly Garth versus Parable, but there are many powerful observers. Okay. So just more reactions. Social gravity, the wrong reaction. Martin often has one character react incorrectly. Everyone gasps at poison, but one person laughs, smiles, drinks, claps. Everyone in your scene poison. Several nobles gasp, someone drop a goblet. Compares to simply reach for another cup of wine. Readers won't notice consciously, but subconsciously they feel that guy is off. Like Galen. Galen isn't even mentioned in this scene, and he's there. Like, I have more characters than I've mentioned in the scene. Like I said, that's about 1,000 words. This is an hour and 43 minutes. It's after 8 a.m., which is when I like to walk my dog. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end this session for now. I'm hot. I'm sweating. I think I'm good. I would love to get back into this today and finish the scene with Parabol. I'm very close to an end. Maybe another 500 words. And then it's definitely leaning towards a chapter break. So I suspected this was going to need to be 2 chapters. I'm really feeling like this is going to be 2 chapters, which means already I'm establishing a pattern where every character is going to get their own interrogation chapter instead of trying to split them between 2, which is what I originally was thinking for this section. But that means my overall chapter count for the book has gone up again. So it bothers me just how big this story is getting. Like, it's bigger than I had originally wanted it to be, which means originally this was going to be a novella. This was going to be 54,000 words. That's what I had mapped out. That's what I had planned, and there was just no way I could fit the story in 54,000 words. Like, I'd be done by now. I'd be editing. That would be nice, but it's expanded. It's expanded ridiculously to this is a full-length novel, and it bothers me slightly. I want this done. I really want this done. Yeah. But I'm close to finishing at least this chapter. I feel like I'm at the midway point of the book, and I've successfully gotten over the threshold of the hesitation that I had getting past the first act, because I'm thinking about this as like a 3-act structure for the book. And I did the first third, which is all the setup and establishment. I'm now in the second third, which is all rising tension, and this is in the hero's journey. This is the road of trials, which is literally a trial. Like, it's a little too on the nose for that, and it stinks that my protagonist is literally on the sidelines. That's where I'm struggling with this. And then Arista, who is my main character, not even in the room. She dominates every single chapter, even the ones that she's not in, and as soon as I actually physically put her in a chapter, she takes over. That's her very nature, is to dominate every single scene that she's in, and even the ones that she's not, like her implication. Like, this is Arista's story. Even more than it is Garrett's, but this is Garrett's journey of growth. The first book was really about Arista's growth. It was absolutely about Arista's growth. This one is all about Garrett's. And then the third book, I'm excited to write the third book. It's going to be a more exhausting task, and I really hope I'm making money off the first 2 books at that point, like at least enough to pay my bills for a year. That would be fantastic. Speaking of, hey, let's go ahead and I don't know if I've done this yet today. But let's set myself up for disappointment real quick. Let's go Amazon Kindle. The guy who coined vibe coding is saying AI is making coding. Yeah, I love that. I love that coders and programmers are being put out of the job by AI. I fucking love that. Sweet. Somebody managed to read 9 pages of my book today. I appreciate that so much. Whoever did it, I genuinely appreciate it. It means 20 whole pages of my book have been read this month. That's a whole 8 cents in royalties to me. If you're at all interested in reading the first book, it's called Drowning, The Lonely Isle. The link is on my page in Twitch and in Kick. If you're watching me on YouTube, just go to Amazon, Drowning, The Lonely Isle, maybe buy Jack Waltz. Like, you got to be really specific in putting it in. It doesn't come up right away. I'm not making enough sales in order for it to like pop up on a lot of searches. You can also find me on Goodreads. Somebody posted me up there. But yeah, if you like it, please check it out. If you like it, please give me a review. I need more reviews. I've only got 3 descriptive reviews and 4 total. I'm staying at 5 stars. I would love to stay at 5 stars, but more reviews would help me out a lot, just to get the ball rolling. Because they see a few reviews and they're like, oh, you got family and friends to read this, but it hasn't caught on yet. And a lot of people will only check something out because it's already popular. So it's kind of a catch-22. I'm trying to get out there. It's not expensive. It's only like $4 for the digital download and $10 for the paperback. I highly recommend the paperback. I like physical copies of the book. Also, I've done a little more editing on the paperback than I did on the digital. On the digital, there's admittedly more sloppy stuff. There are still some editorial changes that I would like to make on the book, but not too many. I think it's just like chapter 5. I want to make some adjustments. But that's my stream for today, folks. I'm gonna cut it off from here. I'm gonna walk the dog, maybe eat some breakfast. I'm running a little low on food at the moment, and then I will be back. I shouldn't play video games today. I should keep working on this, but I'm probably going to do a Warframe break, which, just because that's where I get most of my followers from on Twitch. It feels like I've gotten, I don't even know how many. Yo, what's up, Chromebook Charger? Boo boo baba. All right, baby's first words. Good for you. But yeah, I will be back later, probably with my midday gaming session, and then I don't know about this evening. Cat. In the evening, I typically do art, but lately I've been working on another medium that I don't stream because I'm just trying to get that project done for now. So, peace out. I'll be back, either gaming. Like I said, I really do want to get this chapter done. Maybe today, so I can put this behind me. But yeah, book link in the description. Check it out. It's a short novella, only 44,000 words, and it sets up for basically the introduction for everything that I'm working on writing right now. And this, in and of itself, is the setup and the introduction for the next book that I want to write, that I'm actually far more interested and excited about than I am the one that I'm on. But we're going to get this one done. So, peace out. I'll be back.